All right, let's jump right in. We are talking about the book of 1 Kings today. And look, it's one of those books we all feel like we know pretty well, right? You've got your kings, your prophets, epic wisdom, big battles. But what if I told you there's a whole other story hiding in plain sight? A secret narrative that changes everything. I mean, what if that whole history lesson you learned, all about the powerful kings and the, jaw-dropping miracles, what if that isn't even the main point? What if it's all just the stage for a much, much deeper drama? Because you see, that's exactly what the original text is getting at. The story we think is about politics and power is actually a story about the human heart and God's relentless, persistent voice trying to get through. So here it is. Here's the big shift we need to make. We tend to read First Kings like a simple history book, a list of who is in charge and when. But what it's really about is the incredible danger of a divided heart. It's this constant battle between our human tendency to compromise and God's absolute faithfulness. That right there, that's the key that's going to unlock this whole book for us. And it all kicks off with probably the most famous king of them all, Solomon. But his story isn't just about a guy who got super powerful. It's really about God's bigger plan, his covenant being put into action, and one man's heart being put to the ultimate test. I mean, just think about how he even got the throne. On the surface, yeah, it looks like a bunch of messy political drama. But the way the story is told, it's all about God keeping his promise, the one he made to Solomon's dad, David. It's a reminder that when God puts someone in charge, no amount of human scheming can really get in the way. And then, of course, there's the big one, Solomon's famous wisdom. We just assume he was a genius, right? Like, he had the highest IQ in the ancient world. But the original Hebrew tells a totally different story. It wasn't just that he had a brilliant mind. It's that he was given God's point of view. The secret is this Hebrew word, chokmah. Now, this has nothing to do with IQ points. Chokmah is the ability to see things from heaven's perspective. It's being able to make judgments with the mind of God. So it's not about being smart, it's about being spiritually aligned. And this makes that famous story about the two mothers and the baby make so much more sense. We look at it and think, wow, what a brilliant psychological trick. But when you understand chokmah, you realize it wasn't a trick at all. It was divinely inspired discernment. Solomon wasn't just solving a riddle. He was seeing right into the heart of a real mother. It's the same thing with his masterpiece, the temple. We see this incredible, beautiful building, an amazing religious project. But for the story, it's so much more than that. It was this stunning, physical picture of God literally choosing to come and live in the neighborhood. It was heaven touching earth. But, and you knew there was a but coming, for all of this glory, the story takes a really tragic turn. And just like Solomon's success was tied to his heart being in the right place, his decline causes a fracture that literally whips the nation apart. His private, spiritual drift becomes a public, political disaster. And listen, this is so important. It didn't just happen one day. The Bible lays out a clear, step-by-step process, a kind of anatomy of a fall. It all starts with tiny compromises, things that don't seem like a big deal. But those lead to the wrong relationships. And those relationships open the door to foreign influences. And suddenly, you've got divided loyalty. And the final step? A complete spiritual collapse. It's a slow fade. So later, when the kingdom just violently splits in two, it's not just a random political event. It's the direct physical result of Solomon's divided heart. The spiritual crack inside the king finally broke the entire nation. And check out what happens next. Jeroboam, the new king up north, sets up these golden calves. And we hear that and think, oh, okay, simple idolatry, worshiping a different god. But it's actually way more sneaky and way more dangerous than that. He was telling people they were still worshiping the true God, Yahweh, just in this new, convenient, man-made way. The greatest danger wasn't rejecting God, it was redefining him. And right into the middle of all this spiritual chaos walks one of the most intense figures in the entire Bible, the prophet Elijah. Now, we all remember him for the spectacular miracles, but his real job? It was something else entirely. See, we think of him as Elijah the miracle prophet, the guy who calls down fire from the sky. But his real job title was more like covenant prosecutor. His mission was to bring a legal case on behalf of God against the unfaithful leadership of Israel. The miracles, they were basically Exhibit A. And this all boils over in that incredible scene that everyone knows, the epic, high-stakes showdown on Mount Carmel. But once again, the way we usually think about it kind of misses the entire point. This is where we really have to change our thinking. That whole event wasn't a power display, like some kind of divine magic contest. No, it was a courtroom showdown. This was God, through his prosecutor Elijah, laying out the case and demanding that the people of Israel finally reach a verdict. And Elijah says it in plain legal terms. He stands up and asks, "How long will you waver between two opinions?" That's a cross-examination. He is forcing the jury, the people of Israel, to make a choice. And that fire that comes down from heaven, that's not just a spectacle. That's the verdict being handed down. So what happens after this insane victory? After the fire, after the rain, after everything? Well, the story takes this completely unexpected, intimate turn. We go from the thunder of God's public judgment to the quietness of his personal voice. Because right after the biggest win of his life, Elijah just crashes. He runs away, terrified, totally burned out and depressed. And it's easy for us to look at that and think he's failing, that it's a moment of weakness. But the story presents it as a prophet just being human. And God doesn't yell at him for it. He meets him with this incredibly gentle care. So there he is, hiding in a cave, and there's this huge wind, and an earthquake, and a fire. But the text makes it clearer. God isn't in any of those things. And then God speaks in what the text calls a thin whisper of silence. Just a beautiful, poetic, and really mysterious phrase. And this is the real heart of it. We think this just means God was speaking quietly. But it's so much deeper than that. After all the trauma, all the stress, all the exhaustion, God wasn't there to shout more commands. He was there to offer intimacy, to offer closeness, to heal his tired and wounded servant. So when we pull back and look at the whole thing, what are the secrets we've uncovered? Well, that wisdom from God is a precious gift that has to be guarded. That real idolatry doesn't start with a statue. It starts with a little compromise in your heart. That God stays faithful, even when we completely fail. And maybe most importantly, that while God's fire reveals the truth, it's his whisper that heals the wounded. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. A question that started with those golden calves thousands of years ago, but it's just as relevant for us right now. What's the actual difference between really obeying God and just redefining him into something that's more convenient for us?